Hey everyone, I'm about to try an experiment that I think might turn out cool, and I wanted to bring you along for the ride. So what we're doing today is we are reamping. As you can see behind me, I've got my Fender Princeton Reverb all set up with a microphone on it, and what we're going to be doing today is reamping not guitars but drums. This is something I've been toying with lately, and I just put out a sample pack where one of the samples I included was a snare getting reamped through this amp, and I thought it sounded really cool, and so I wanted to go a step further and try it with an entire drum set. So what we're going to do is we're going to reamp this in a few different ways. As long as I'm here and as long as I've got everything set up, I'm going to try just reamping the stereo drum bus so everything is more or less mixed, and then I'm just going to send the left channel through the amp, and then I'll send the right channel through as well, and then I'll put those back together and see just what the stereo drum bus sounds like reamped. And then what I'll also do is go through and reamp each of the channels individually. So we'll have kick, snare, overhead left, overhead right, etc. And that's going to take a while, but it will give us more fine control over the final sound. And I'm really not sure if this is going to sound really cool or if it'll sound gimmicky or whatever, but I've got a track that I've been working on that I think might benefit from this sound. So let's just see. Let me just kind of show you real quick the setup I got going on, and then I'll do the reamping part, and then we'll go look at the sounds in the computer. So hold on, let me get the camera off the tripod here. Okay, so as you can see on this side, there we go. All right, so I've got the Fender Princeton Reverb. This is a 65 reissue. This is in a special green with a 12-inch greenback speaker. I've got my AKG 414, if it'll focus there, BULS on there, just something that's relatively flat and neutral sounding. And what's happening is those that microphone signal is coming into the control room here, and out of the claret, out of the Focusrite claret is going the signal from the drums. I'm really not explaining this very well, but I think you get the idea. I'm going to send each of these tracks individually out. Boom, 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 boom. Goes back in through the microphone. If you're familiar with the process of reamping, this is not news to you. So anyways, that's the plan here. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to go through and reamp everything, and then I'll check in with you again at the computer. So next day, here at the computer, listening to what I recorded last night, and I think I've got good news to report all the way around. So let's dive into this session here. I did reamp all of the multi-tracks, so that took a while, and then I also reamped the stereo bus, and then I've got something else to show you as well. So first of all, let's just listen to what got recorded. So first we'll listen to just the stereo drum bus. So these are the drums mixed down, and then I reamped first the left channel and then the right channel, and then I put them together here. So here's what that sounds like. So kind of like I expected, I think it sounds really cool and kind of old and scratchy and grainy. So let's compare that against all of the individual channels being reamped. So let's just do that. I'll flip back and forth between them. So here's the all the individual channels reamped, and then just watch my cursor over here, and I'll kind of flip back and forth so you can hear the difference between the stereo bus and then all of the individual channels being reamped. So here we go. So shockingly, actually not that much of a difference in my mind. I thought for some reason that it would sound significantly different reamping all of the multi-tracks separately versus just reamping the stereo bus. So I guess that's the first piece of good news, that if you do want to do this trick, you can probably get away with just doing the stereo bus. And in fact, what I was noticing is that there's definitely more buildup, more just noise floor buildup from the individual tracks all being stacked together versus just the stereo bus. Just the sound from the amp itself kind of builds up. Now, obviously, if you do them all separately, you get independent control at the end of the day, which is useful in some scenarios. Let me just kind of take you through some of the individual tracks, kick, snare, overheads, that sort of thing. Hold on. This guy. That was just a mic sitting on the floor. So anyways, it is cool to be able to go through and mess with the multi-tracks individually, but it sounds to my ears strikingly similar to just doing the stereo bus. So that's the kind of effect you can expect to get when going through this process. Now, what I also wanted to try doing is seeing if I could replicate this in the box on just the regular drum bus. So here's what the drums sounded like originally before getting reamped. Maybe I should have shown you this first, but whatever, here we are. Oh wait, hold on, sorry. Solo this, there we go. Okay, so that was the drum bus before being reamped. And now what I did was I just put SansAmp on it. Most people have access to a SansAmp. If you have Pro Tools, SansAmp is one of the built-in plugins. Chad Blake uses this all the time. A lot of people have the physical SansAmp hardware, but it sounds like this. So here's the SansAmp versus the real reamp. So I think that's the other piece of good news here, is that you don't necessarily need to have a really nice amp and reamping capabilities and whatever. I thought that did not sound the same, and I thought the reamp in this case sounded a little bit better, but it sounded very, very close, and probably the SansAmp would work better in some situations, and I spent really very, very little time trying to dial in the EQ to make it sound similar. So I imagine that if you used modelers like Helix or anything that really, really closely tried to capture the effect of an amp, that you could get really, really close to this effect without actually having to go in and do it for real. And even if you do want to do it for real, it seems like you can probably just mix down your drums and then just reamp the left and right channel, and you will get that vibe. So a little bit of a bummer on the one hand that, doing the real thing isn't necessarily that much better than doing it in the box, but it does save us a lot of time. And of course, you can always do it the real way if you want the extra vibe points. One thing I would want to try, though, at some point, this is kind of a crazy idea I had last night that I didn't have time for, would be to separate out all of the stems and send them at the same time to multiple amps in the room. So like, use a bass cab as the bass drum amp, and then have a snare going through something specifically, and place them around the room, and then almost mic them the same way you would a drum set. So that's a little too much for the scope of this video. Maybe that's something I'll try in the future. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you got something out of this. Thank you for following along with me, and I will see you next time.